I recently put a brand new Holley carburetor on my 1985 Chevy C10 pickup. It's a 4160 Street Warrior, 600 CFM, electric choke, vacuum secondaries, pretty basic carb. And the problem is, it's been giving me some issues, and it's brand new. Before I threw this setup on, I had an older model 4160, same exact carb, and the truck ran great. It ran awesome, no problems. So you might ask, why get a brand new carb if it ran fine before? Well, the reason is right out here. It's that 1977 Jeep CJ7. I originally bought this brand new carb for that build. We just got done with a complete rebuild of that AMC 304 V8. And when it came time for critical first startup, we couldn't get the CJ to fire with this brand new carb. Since it's so imperative that when you have a fresh rebuild that it starts right up, took the old carb off the C10 that I knew was great, threw it on the 304, and sure enough, fired right up. We broke it in, and now the CJ is running awesome. So I took the new unit, threw it on this mild-built Chevy 350 small block, and here it sits. So today we're gonna get it dialed in and get this truck running right again. Let's check it out. All right, you wanna hear the good news? The good news is, once the truck is up to operating temp, which we're at right now, this carb runs great. It's responsive, it's dialed in, it's good to go. The problem is with cold starts. Fully up to temp, and she's just purring. So the reason this engine runs so good only after it's warmed up is because I already tuned this carb one time, but I waited to do so until the motor was completely up to operating temp and the choke was open, everything was good. And I've showed you guys that before on the channel. So first we check the float levels. There's a sight plug on the passenger side, and then you adjust it on this top knob right here. You adjust your float up or down until fuel just barely trickles out of that sight plug. Then we adjusted our idle, got it at a good idle. Again, everything's at operating temp. And then finally I hooked a vacuum gauge to manifold vacuum and adjusted the idle mixture screws until we had peak vacuum. So this brand new carb, it's not faulty or anything. It just needs tuned on the cold start end of things. And we do that by adjusting the choke and the fast idle screw. Here's your choke plate right here. And the idea with the choke is on a cold start, the plate is closed just like that, which creates a rich mixture, less air is getting in and more fuel, just to get the engine to start running. And then as it warms up, that choke is gonna open up and lean out that mixture, more air, more fuel, and you're running good. My theory is that the choke is staying on way longer than it should. The motor's warm, it's ready for more air, but since that choke plate is closed, fuel is just dumping in and doesn't have enough air to mix. And eventually what will happen is the whole shop will fill with white smoke, unburnt fuel, and you'll get fumed out pretty quick. So I'll start it here. Choke plate's closed. It should start up. Now it's running okay right now because the choke does need to be closed for a little bit just to get the engine running, like I was saying. See, now the white smoke is already starting. The engine wants more air, but the choke plate is still completely closed. We'll open it up a little bit. It's running better. Now open it up all the way. Shut her down. Now you heard it start to idle up right there, getting high in the RPMs. And that is that fast idle adjustment I was saying earlier. That red piece in there, that's your fast idle cam. So as the engine warms up and the choke starts to turn, that cam will bump, start to open up the choke a little bit more, and then you'll see the throttle linkage completely go forward and just bring you to your normal curb idle. It's unlikely we have to adjust that fast idle, and you need that fast idle on a cold start. That way the engine can warm up quicker. If you do need to adjust it, you open up your throttle and you can see a screw right there. And you can back that off or tighten it, and that's how you adjust your fast idle speed. But since it's a brand new carb, that's set from the factory, it's probably okay. We're gonna start with adjusting the choke and see where that goes. I'm gonna let the motor cool down though, so this choke plate closes all the way again. Before we adjust the choke, it's important to check to make sure you have power coming to the choke on a switched source. No power when the key is off, but when the key is on, it has power. On an electric choke, the electricity actually warms up the coil that opens your choke. So if you don't have power here, you're only relying on the warmth of the engine to open the choke, and it'll take forever to open up. No power, Now I'll tell you right now, when I turn this key on, see we got our choke light, but we're still not gonna have power to the choke. And that's because on this here Squarebody, the way it's wired up in the back of the motor here, there's an oil pressure sensor, and it doesn't send power to the choke until the engine has oil pressure. But that's the way it was wired when I got the truck. I don't know if it's factory, but I just kept it. So I'll fire it up and then we should have power. Oh, fire! Probably gonna need it to cool down a little bit again. That choke cracked open a little bit. Let her cool down again. Choke plate closed, and we'll just loosen up these 3 screws here. Yes, sir. Now I'll be able to move this cap around, and you can see that turning the cap opens the choke. There's a little indentation on the black cap here, and then there's all these marks on the metal on the carburetor. You want to make sure you don't go past that point, so stay within the marks. And it started in the middle, factory setting. Now it is summertime, so it's about 85 degrees in the shop now. Cold weather is done for now, so I'm probably gonna crack this open a little farther than I would in the winter time. We'll just put it right there at the max. We turned it towards the front of the truck to open up the choke. That's gonna allow the choke to come off quicker. So I'll tighten those screws down, we'll fire it up, we'll see what happens. So it sounds like it went to the fast idle right away. See how long it takes for that choke to open up. Alright, it's been about a minute. We'll blip the throttle. And there it is at a normal idle. Hardly any white smoke. I think we got her in a pretty good spot. I'm gonna let it cool down yet again. While that cools down, I'm curious to see where the choke's at on the CJ here, setting wise. Yeah. So this one is set, it's not dead in the middle like factory, it is forward quite a bit. So the choke is cracked open a little bit to start. This motor does have a bigger cam than this one. That has an almost stock cam, so all of that can come into play. But this CJ runs pretty good. That's a cold start. That choke's all the way open already. I love how this thing sounds. A little mild cam in here. Well, now that we're at it anyway, might as well check the Suburban, see where this one's at. Let's see. Get on in here. This one don't even have marks. Let's see where the choke's at. Dang, that thing's like wide open. Oh well, it runs good, I know that. Oh, that thing's a little loosey-goosey. Fast idle cam. We'll leave it be till it gives us issues. Excuse me. That exhaust leak came back. We'll be addressing that real soon. Cooled back off again, choke's cracked open a little bit. What I'm gonna do now is try and drive the truck when it's cold, because with the old setup, I could barely even move this thing without it dying out and white smoke going everywhere. Even if I let it warm up for like 2 or 3 minutes, it would still, just backing into the shop here, you had to give it a lot of throttle or it would die out and white smoke would just pour. So there's our high idle. We'll pull it out of the shop. I don't know, that still might be too high of an idle because it's really jumpy. When I put it in gear, it really grabs. But it's definitely good for now. Not like it was almost dying out. Instead of blipping the throttle to kind of force it into a low idle, I'm just gonna let it sit here on its own and see what happens. I don't know if you can see it, it's still running a little bit rich, white smoke. But at this point, besides timing, that's all we can pretty much adjust since we maxed out the choke on being open like all the time. Yeah, you can see that white smoke. Yeah, choke's like all the way open. Kind of have to manually bump it down. Maybe that's how it's supposed to be. I don't know. Let's go for a ride. We're up to operating temp. It's running great. Which makes sense because we didn't really adjust anything after it's warmed up. We already knew it ran good when it's warm. Still got to give it an old test drive. Now, just to cover my bases here, I'm sure just putting a fan on the engine to cool down the choke isn't like a proper cool down. So I'm gonna let the truck sit overnight and we'll fire it up again tomorrow, give it a real cold start and see what it's like. All right, we're back for another day. She's been sitting overnight and the choke's wide open, and we'll crack the throttle here. And oh, it closed all the way. I thought we had it so it was cracked a little bit, but that's closed all the way. I was thinking about it anyway. I think I'm gonna turn down that fast idle a little bit. It just sounded really fast when we let it cool down yesterday. So we'll do that real quick and then we'll fire it up. Actually, I will start it now real quick just so we can see where we're at. Complete cold start. Yeah, see, that idle just sounds a little too high. I'm gonna adjust that quick before we warm up too much here. Got a pair of long reach needle nose pliers here to get in at the adjustment screw. And we're gonna go lefty-loosey. And we're just gonna turn this screw out. I think it's a 1/4 inch hex. If you do have a wrench that small, I don't. I got it adjusted pretty far out, and I wanted to see where the CJ was at for comparison, since I like how well the CJ runs. And that screw is backed almost all the way out. There's like none of it sticking up out through. So I kind of mimicked that on the C10 here, but since it does have a little bit bigger of a cam, like I was saying, I did allow some of it to stick out through there. So let's see how it runs. Probably gonna have a little bit of a rough time starting because I was pumping the throttle a lot. See, I like that. That sounds good. It's not screaming. I'm gonna shut it down. Since the carb isn't flooded now, I'm gonna let it sit and cool down again. All right, it's been sitting for a few hours now. Should be plenty cool. Got a whole other project done. Sneak peek. That's all you get. Choke completely closed. Let's light it off. Now that we got that fast idle turned down, should be pretty good. Sounds good. Now we'll wait for that choke to open up. There she goes, opening up. See if it has the throttle. Down to our curb idle. Oh yeah, dialed in good now. I'd say we have this Holley carb pretty well dialed in. I figured it wouldn't be too bad since it's brand new and all, but now that that's done, we have a good powertrain for this truck. The weak link with this whole thing is the rear gear. It's got 273 gears in the back, open diff. We're gonna be doing something about that real soon. Keep an eye out for that. CJ7, you guys probably saw it a little bit, but I got started cutting the floors apart, and this thing will be ready to ride. But that's gonna wrap it up for this one, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.